major malfunction. Didn't Mommy and Daddy show you enough attention when you were a child?
Let's play this backwards and see if it gets any better.
Let's get down to business. What do you say?
Show me the money!
Always be closing. Always be closing.
You're now listening to Boots to Business with Daniel Hrabowski.
All right, everybody, welcome to Boots to Business. My name is Daniel Hrabowski. You can listen to us every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. on WFLA Orlando. You can find us at FM 93.1, 94.1, 107.7, online at any of the socials. At Boots to, just look up Boots to Business, or you can look me up personally at Daniel Hrabowski. You can find all of our episodes on the Boots to Business YouTube channel and www.boots-to-business.com. First part of today's show is brought to you by Insurance Claims HQ, powered by the Hair Shannara Trial Attorneys. Their commitment is to help make you whole again after a disaster. Give them a call at 844-252-4684, or you can visit them at insuranceclaimhq.com. So in studio with me today, as always, is Melissa Jacob from Striking Brand. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, hello.
And we have a guest today, Clint Moore, who is the owner, proprietor, patriarch, all things fatherly of Clint and Company. And he's also a public adjuster for Coastal Claims Services, one of our sponsors. So, Clint, how are you today?
I am doing great. Hello,
Thank you for
Daniel. Thank you
sponsoring.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, so Clint and I have known each other for about a year, I would say.
Yeah.
And when I was with Coastal, he had come in. I always thought it was weird that he was a lawyer, and I was like, "Well, how does a lawyer fit into being a public adjuster?" And you know that we've had some of these conversations with folks on the show where they do live in parallel with each other. But he's the first person I've ever met who is a lawyer and works as a PA, not is a lawyer and does lawyer things on claims. So let's start there. So is there a difference when you are acting as a lawyer on an insurance claim or when you are acting as a public adjuster on an insurance claim?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be differences.
I guess let's live there prior to litigation, right? So do you treat them differently depending on which hat you're wearing?
I try not to, but if you're going to really dig down into the nitty gritty of it, the attorney-client relationship is so sacred that it is a little bit different than representing a policyholder. Obviously, you have different rules that apply to you professionally, that govern each one. So, I mean, there are some differences, but by and large, what you're doing day in, day out, it's pretty much the same.
Gotcha. So now does Clint and Company do more than insurance litigation, first party stuff? What other areas do you practice in?
Sure. I started out my career doing I was a public defender down in Miami, doing criminal defense. So occasionally,
there's got to be a bunch of good stories that come out of that.
There's lots of good stories,
Yeah.
maybe for a different episode.
Oh, no.
Oh, I think we can touch on some of them.
Some of them are pretty sad, but there's also some fun ones too. That was a great job.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, one of my favorites. But I still take a criminal defense case every now and then, some personal injury claims. But really, since about 2021, I've drilled down into first party pretty exclusively. So
do you think you'll stay on the PA side, or do you think that you're going to kind of shift over into more of the first party litigator space, or can you live in both simultaneously forever?
I don't know if I can do it forever. It's been an awesome year this past year, kind of splitting time between both. And to be quite honest with you, I kind of like the adjusting side more at this point in time. I like that you can take your license to different states. That's with less complications. You know?
Yeah.
The ability to travel and go on the ground places is super attractive to me at this point in my life. It may not be something I do forever, and I would never let Clint and Company go, entirely unless there was, the opportunity presented itself or something.
Right.
But right now, I'm really enjoying it, and I love working with the people that I work with at Coastal. I'm very sad that you're not there anymore, but
well, I appreciate that.
It's really great to have coworkers as opposed to just sitting behind your desk and doing Zoom depositions.
Well, in the PA space is interesting because you kind of do have the ability to go do whatever. If you want to be somebody who does live behind a desk, you can do that. If you want to be a storm chaser, you can do that. If you want to be at every convention, every summit, every, whatever, you have the option and availability to do that as well. And, finding your own niche. I personally despise running residential claims because you have to deal with everybody's emotion.
That's true.
And I think the military desensitized me a lot to the empathy side of things. And it makes it, double-edged sword there. On one hand, it can be beneficial to not have that emotional draw and attachment to some of these people and their things. But I think sometimes it's expected out of you. And so commercial claims were always where I was comfortable because you're dealing with somebody who's removed. Yeah. And you're not dealing with my kids have been putting their height every year on this door frame and, now my house got blown up by a tornado. You're not dealing with that sort of stuff. I mean, does that make sense? Can you expand on that a little bit? Like how you do it?
I've been doing it for 10 years. Like, again, doing criminal defense when you're representing people who have no money, who are charged with crimes, you're getting into their personal lives. Right. I mean, that there is some emotional fatigue that goes there, and it's translated very well into the first party property space. Because you're right. I can see that. I mean, this is, for the first couple of years I was doing it, it felt a little, I could feel some of that, but it was a little more distant than what I was doing as a criminal defender. But, when Ian hit and my house got hit pretty hard, right, and I had to relocate, that's when I started living my client's experience. And it really started to come home, all the little things that you don't see when you're just preparing a case and, filing documents and making arguments.
Well, there's always, especially here in states that are hurricane prone, we're always having this kind of educational conversation with people. Like, these are the things to do to prepare your home for her. Nobody does them. Right? I mean, how many times have you gone in and you're like, well, what did you have for your, your own personal contents? And it's as easy as just turning your camera on and taking a video through your house, right? Now, obviously, if you have stuff in drawers and things like that, it's a little bit different. But nobody does that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't even do the whole, certain number of jugs of water, have that to this. I don't even do that.
No, nobody does.
That's what you were talking about.
No, that is one of the things. Or having a generator, or we watched there was a lady right by Coastal's office that built a moat around her property.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Moat?
Yep.
Hey, thinking out of the box.
It was.
Listen.
What was the hurricane that was supposed to come through that ended up going up into the armpit there? Was it, start with a D? Dahlia. Yeah. So that one, they were concerned that it was going to come across, and I was going in, and I remember going into the office, and one morning everything was normal like it always is. You see the same houses, same people walking their dogs, all that stuff. And then I come through the next morning, and she had hired the people from Ditch Witch and did this. I mean, it was probably this wide all the way around.
Picture so bad.
And I was like, wow, what a ridiculous undertaking this was, because even last year when Ian and Nicole came through, her house kind of sits up a little bit. The water didn't reach her house. And that was a pretty significant storm. So to see her have this moat built out, and somebody convinced her, right? There was some kid out there going, I can make $100 if I did this. And but you do run into some of that stuff too, where, the idea is that you do have to mitigate from further damages, and nobody really knows what that looks like, because it's so vastly different from a person your age to a person 90 to a person who's 20 who just got their first house. Like, everybody's capacity to fix that stuff is vastly different. And so then when they get the files in and they're sent to somebody like Clint to run, he's going through and doing all this backpedaling, trying to figure out what policy limits they have. And then you start to get into some of that soup of what'd your furniture cost? And they're like, well, I don't know. But this one thing that they have an emotional attachment to is destroyed, right? And then you get to have that conversation with people, and it's a little bit cumbersome at that point. Right. So good on you, Clint, for enjoying that part of it. I struggle with the empathy side of things in that case for sure. But so with all of that being said, when we come back from the break, I want to talk to Clint about the Facebook group that he's a part of that's nothing but people named Clint.
Oh, fun.
We'll touch on that here in just a minute. Oh, yeah. We'll be back here in just a minute. This is Boots to Business. I'm Daniel Rabowski. We'll see y'all in a few minutes.
We now return to Boots to Business with Daniel Rabowski.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Boots to Business. My name is Daniel Rabowski. In studio with me today is Melissa Jacob from Striking Brand. Melissa.
Hello.
And Clint Moore with the Clint & Company and also Coastal Claims. Clint.
Hello, sir.
And this part of today's show is brought to you by Shield Tech Roofing Solutions. They are your premier destination for commercial roofing excellence. When it comes to protecting your commercial property, trust in their top-tier roof coatings and expert repair services. Their commitment is unparalleled customer service and roofing expertise to ensure your satisfaction. Explore all of their solutions for commercial roofs at shieldtechroofing.com. So, before the break, we were kind of just getting through some intro stuff, I would say.
Getting to know Clint.
And we're about to find out more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to know, first off, I got a random notification on my Facebook feed, and it was something that
He's already shaking his head.
you had commented on. I don't recall what it was. And what's the name of the Facebook group?
So the name of the Facebook group is the Clint Army.
The Clint Army.
Yes.
Okay. So then I
Okay.
click on this thing, and you can only see a little bit because it's a private group.
Oh, okay.
It is reserved for people named Clint.
Okay.
What goes on in this group?
We need to know.
Listen, I
Ooh,
really,
or is it like the Masons where like you can't talk about it?
That's
It's
be
the,
Fight Club.
it's the skulls.
I really wish you
Fight
hadn't
Club.
brought this up, Daniel.
Oh no,
No,
this-
we're
I
gonna have
really
to
enjoy
die
getting
now.
to know you.
Yeah.
You guys are
Gonna kill us.
definitely
We-
on a list. And
what's
Um,
what's that? What was the saying? There was a thing that came out a couple months ago. I saw it, and it said, "Man, I joined this new thing. It was really cool. Like everybody just gets in there. You got to fight." I missed the first few minutes, so I missed all the rules. But Fight Club is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this is a
haven't
this
seen
is
that.
a
That's
thing.
funny.
Yeah.
I- so the Clint Army was something I joined, God, probably in like 2007 or
Mhm.
8, like back in college.
It's
It was
so
just
cool.
something stupid that I found. And I don't remember what prompted me, but I was like on Facebook and I wrote in there, like, because there had been no activity for like years. And I was like,
Mhm.
all right, I'm going to stir things up again. So I was like,
You're like
Oh, no.
I'm a Clint.
He's a rabble.
I'm gonna
rouser.
go in here and do this.
yeah. And I said something like, behold, like the time is coming, get ready, for us to rise or something crazy. And
Yeah.
I did not know that was going to send out to everybody like on my feed.
Oh,
So-
catalyst.
it's so
Oh,
good.
nice.
Yes.
So not even just the Clint Army
Oh,
people.
nice.
Yes.
Everybody saw it.
Everybody.
Oh, it's so good.
I thought it was just going to be us. I was like, who cares? This is going to be stupid. No one's even active on this thing.
That is
And then
hilarious.
you're not the first person to be like,
What's
what
this
is
Clint
this?
group about?
like, and why are you speaking
I'm
like
dying.
some prophet or something,
Yeah. Do you guys, if you're in a room full of Clints, what is a group of, is it like a murder of Clints? A gaggle of Clints? Is there a term? And if there's not, we should coin one and copyright it, and it should be used by all Clints around the world.
A cult.
We
A cult
could.
of Clints.
We could do that.
Mhm.
Cult of Clints. I like that. Some
Mhm.
alliteration
Yeah.
there. Yeah, that's
We
pretty
love
nice.
that.
Yeah,
Huh.
and it sticks with the like weird kind of apocalyptic theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a logo for the
We're getting.
I feel like we're missing such a fantastic opportunity here for t-shirts. There's merch. There's like secret handshakes. Is there a Clint handshake?
You're gonna have to.
Ah,
you sound like you're about to go get renamed as Clint.
I'm
is what
fanboying the
saying.
hell out of this right now.
I mean, you'll be a lower tier Clint if you're renamed, but if you have a
Okay.
child named Clint, then you can be
Little
pass
boost.
through there.
we
Got
can
it.
we can make that happen. So is there like your obviously your first name's not Clint. So are you like a second tier Clint because you're
Oh.
Well, look, no one
It all
knew
comes
that.
out. It all comes
it's
out.
on your Facebook.
No one knew that when I joined the group, but now that I've had to change,
It's like
it,
it's like all the little green guys in Toy Stories, like the claw. Like that's when Clint came in, and
Yeah.
all these Clints that have been dormant for so long, we're just like, there's somebody new. So has it maintained any level of activity since
No.
you?
No.
No.
It's one of those you
It's
just
so-
join and just for the help.
it's just been there, and I never do any maintenance on the profile or anything. I really don't even remember like how I stumbled across it again or what possessed me to post. But
I want to know.
terribly regret it now.
No,
so
no, you ride
funny.
that thing out, man. I'm
You
looking
should
it up
dou-
right now.
You should double down. Honestly, you need to do another post.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
I'm
even.
gonna
more.
let him know.
Yeah.
So June 13th, Clint says,
Oh God.
"Sleep not, our time is coming," and that's what showed up on my page.
I would click the heck out of that too. Like,
Yeah, I was like, hold on.
what's Clint doing over here?
There's somebody named Clinton Zilla. This is like, I got to stop. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole here.
I got another one for you. Okay.
Wait, there's more.
So when I started Clinton Company, I was looking at other, stuff just to make sure that no one, wasn't going to step on any toes or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There is a Clinton Co. band out there that I now follow and comment on occasionally on with the company stuff. So
You should hire them to come out for like a little organization, little event thing for your company. I'm just saying.
that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
That one's free.
It's funny how a lot of these things work themselves around. So like if you look at our logo and you look up the logo for Gary Sinise, the Lieutenant Dan band, and look up that logo, they're like
Similar?
super similar. Yeah.
was that on purpose or was
Nope,
that just?
so Angela and her husband actually
okay.
built this. The only thing that's mine, like legitimately mine, is the robot with the signature.
Oh, I
like
love
that's mine. And I did that because when I shifted over into trying to get more speaking gigs, the Rabowski Consulting logo was this guy, right? And then it had this weird cursive that I hated. And I was like, well, I got to do something different for the speaker page. And so I got on Fiverr and I was like, hey, or no, it wasn't Fiverr. It was actually one of those like signature logo companies. And I said, I want my robot somehow incorporated with my signature. I don't ever write out Daniel. I always just write the D and then the last name. And they sent it back very similar. And it's behind me, but I'm looking at it in the reflection. They sent it back and it was just like the PNG of the robot in the thing. And I said, no, I paid you guys like $200 to hand draw this. Like that's my expectation. They sent it back and I was like, oh no, that actually looks really good. So, I have not run across my robot anywhere, but then the logos, it seems to be, and I know like Coastal's logo is trademarked, but it's everywhere, right? Like you will see different iterations of a C inside a C inside a C. And unfortunately, I don't know that there's anything you can do about it, right? But I feel like the Clint Army needs a
like
logo.
you need a logo.
I'm going to live there for a minute.
I also feel like you should only be hiring Clints for your company. I feel like
that
you
could
need
be a
to-
problem with
There might be a legal-
opportunity
I just feel
stuff.
like-
Maybe it's like
unwritten.
maybe we call it the Clint preference, right? Where you get like
Yeah.
a 5-point preference
Right.
on,
Yeah.
it's like being a veteran, you get the veteran's preference on
Right.
things. Well, that's, this is the best part of today's show, no matter what.
I really just want you to double down on the post. I just need you to put something out.
I'm gonna go back.
ominous. Yeah.
Now that we're expanding our reach here, I mean this
Yeah.
is all a part of the plan
Expanding
here.
our reach.
Not just a hat rack, Clint. I think that, but no, what we need to do is make sure that when we do the reels, we get Clint some good reels talking about the Clint Army, and he can post them.
Oh, see, that's perfect. And then you can post them in the group.
And then everybody will still see them because
That's
apparently
true.
it's not closed off for everybody like I thought it was.
Smart.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna ascend the ranks here very quickly.
yeah,
At least
what-
in this group, I'll probably never have a political career ever again.
Oh, listen, I've been sucked into some Facebook groups that I'm like, oh, this one looks fine. And then like 3 months later, you're like, oh, no, I got to get out.
I
Like
got to get out.
somebody at one point, becomes people post some weird stuff and you see it come across and you're like, no, I got to get out of this group. And and I'm sure you are as well. A lot of these roofing groups and PA groups and disaster recovery groups and all that. And they all start out fine. And they probably all start out with the good and correct intention. And then it never fails. There's always somebody trying to sell you crypto. There's always somebody wanting to send you money via PayPal, a bunch of naked women. Like it's just, and then it takes a turn and then the administrators don't kick those people out of the groups. Do you guys have any rogue Clints? I love that we keep circling back to this.
I haven't,
have any
maybe
trouble?
they're lurking or something, but no, I haven't seen any rogue Clints. We're a pretty tight knit group here.
Yeah.
We're all
Hold
focused on the mission.
How many people? 20. There's 22 Clints in the Clint Army.
Oh, we got
I think you could take those guys out. I think that you could become the head Clint.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Longer facial hair, established dominance.
Well,
Right.
this is trimmed, so it's.
It looks good. It looks good. We'll talk
You
about
taught me
your facial
everything
hair
I
when we get back. So this is Boots to Business. My name is Daniel Rabowski. Clint, Melissa, thank you. We'll be back here in just a few minutes.
We now return to Boots to Business with Daniel Rabowski.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Boots to Business. My name is Daniel Rabowski. This portion of today's show is brought to you by Golden Temple Builders. Try to say that 3 times fast.
You did.
Bringing decades of expertise to commercial renovations and remodels, their commitment to you is clear, written pricing options tailored to your project. Visit them at goldenTempleBuilders.com for details, or you can give them a shout at 321-508-0815 and let them help build your vision together, serving Florida, Texas, Louisiana, and Costa Rica. In studio, as always, Melissa Jacob, Striking Brand.
Hello, hello.
And we have Clint Moore, head of the Clint Army, owner
That's your new title.
of Clint and Company law firm and public adjuster at Coastal Claim Services. You have that's a resume right there. Like, you see these guys with the doctors like MHP, PHM, blah, 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 like all these. Do you have a bunch of those? I need to look. Here, I'm on
You'll
an
find
email
it.
Yeah, well, he's found everything else so far, so I don't doubt it.
In the last segment, we spent the entire segment talking about the Clint Army. If anybody gets a wild hair up their butt and wants to look that up on Facebook, it's a good time. Oh man, there needs to be more of this, right? There needs to be more of people not taking themselves so seriously. I guess I was thrown off by it because prior to meeting you, I don't know. No, I knew one other. No, his name was Clayton. I didn't know another Clint. Right?
Now you could potentially meet 22.
I could potentially meet 22. Yeah. It's kind of, so let's talk about this. I mean, I love talking about growth and development, right? So is the choice to go by Clint instead of William, Bill, Willie, any of those, like, is that a conscious choice, or was that kind of pushed on you as a kid?
Yeah, it wasn't a choice. The way I look at it was, I was always Clint growing up. My brother's same way. He was called by his middle name as well. So I was just always Clint. It's been a lifetime of correcting teachers and anyone in an official capacity, like, call me Clint.
Right.
Yeah.
So is Clint or William or both like a lineage name, like handed down to you?
Yes.
Father, grandfather.
Yes, there is actually a William Clinton Moore. But the story goes that William came from the other side of the family, and Clint came from that side.
I got it.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah, there is some lineage there, in both our names.
So I know, because I remember I had a dude I went to high school with. His name was Lloyd Aaron Quimby, and he always went by Aaron. Nobody knew his name was Lloyd until we graduated, or until he was a year older than me. Until he graduated, and he was walking across the stage, and they're like, Lloyd Aaron Quimby, and we're all like, what?
Who's that?
Who is this guy? My middle name's Lloyd. So when I heard it, I was like, that's weird. And obviously they weren't talking about me, but you don't hear Lloyd very often. So I always like to figure out how people get to where it seems like it's more guys do it, I think, than women do. My wife and I were having this conversation. Her name is Amy. And I was like, well, you wouldn't understand. Amy's not short for anything. And she said, yes, it is. And I said, wait, what is Amy short? Amelia. Did you know that
okay.
Amy is short for Amelia?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cute.
I did that same exact thing. Oh.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I said, all right, so is your name, I've been married to you for 12 years. Is your name Amelia? And she said, no, it's Amy. And I said,
Well, okay.
okay. But I'm very conscious of names. So like my name is Daniel. I go by Daniel. Very often I will not even respond to you if you call me Dan. It's just it. And I don't know why, if I'm being completely honest. I think when I was in the Army, everybody called me Robo. Well, really, since I was a kid, everybody called me Robo because they couldn't pronounce my last name. So for me, even going into the Army, it was always Robo. And then when I got promoted to sergeant, it was Sergeant Robo. And then the day I got out, they said, well, Mr. Rabowski, what do you go by? And I was like, I go by Robo. And they said,
They
no,
call me Robo.
you have to, like, you get your real name back now. And I was like, well, it's Daniel. They said, okay, Daniel, have a great day. And it just kind of stuck. And I remember a lot of my family members giving me a bunch of crap about it because unbeknownst to me, I wasn't allowed to use my old real name. They wanted to stay referring to me as Dan. And I was like, but my name is Daniel. And even my mom.
Did they call you Dan when you were little? Was that a family thing? Or?
My mom still calls me Dan. Drives me crazy.
Yeah.
My grandmother called me Danny.
Okay.
She's the only one allowed to do
Yeah.
that. And outside of that, everybody called me Robo, and ex-wife probably called me Dan. maybe that's what it is. It's a bunch of people I don't care to associate
gonna
with
say.
anymore. Call me
I
Dan.
was gonna say.
And then
Yeah.
my mother, not saying I don't want to associate with my mother.
Yeah.
I got to disclaimer
You know.
that real
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
before I get
Asterisk.
myself in
Mess that
trouble.
up.
Asterisk.
I'm a big fan of the Big Rabowski.
Same.
That is a great
Mhm.
handle and nickname.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So and it's funny because I'm the youngest, but I am the largest, like physically.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, my older brother was always Robo, and then I was little Robo. Well,
Mhm.
then I got bigger than him,
Mm-hmm.
and then he graduated high school, and I was by myself, and they were still calling me little Robo. I'm like, he's not even here anymore.
It just sticks. So you just don't like Dan. You just.
Oh, I hate Dan.
Okay.
It's so unenthusiastic. It's just like Dan, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
I hate Missy. If anybody calls me Missy, I'm
So
like, stop.
my sister's name is Missy,
Oh.
is Melissa,
Yeah.
but we call her Missy.
Oh, nope. That's one I
Yeah.
can't do.
But my oldest brother's name is William. We call him Bill. And then he named his son, who would be the fourth, that he named him Trey. So I'm not
Mhm.
really sure how we screwed that up.
Trey?
Um,
The fourth?
Yeah.
I thought that was a three.
So yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was William Harry Rabowski. My dad is William Harry Rabowski. My oldest brother's William Harry Rabowski, and then his son is Trey.
Hmm.
I don't know how we landed there, but that's what it is.
I thought about going by Bill Clint as like a
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. Oh yeah,
thing,
you
you
could
know?
twist that. You could
Yeah.
totally twist that around for sure.
Yeah.
But that's how I ended up with the big Rabowski stuff. Was I would go places and they were like, "What's your last name?" I'm like, "Rabowski." They're like, "You say Lebowski?"
Mm-hmm.
Nope. And then people be like the dude. I'm like, no, you know what? So then I finally just embraced it because
Mhm.
great movie, by the way.
Mhm.
absolutely.
So then it became the Big Rabowski, and at the time that I started using it as all my handles, we referred to me lovingly as Fat Daniel at that point in time. I was the 300-pound version of myself,
Okay.
and so it made sense to be the Big
Wait,
Rabowski.
you were a 300-pound version of yourself, and your nickname was Little.
No, that was after. So
Little-
then,
oh,
then
okay.
it was once I got out from underneath
Got
my
it.
brother's shadow, and then it was always the Big Lebowski references. So then I was like, all right, cool. It was Instagram handles and
Mhm.
all this stuff. I was like, cool. I'm just gonna make it the Big Rabowski.
Mhm.
I was fat
Mhm.
and I was Rabowski. Like it all made sense.
Mhm.
And then when I lost all the weight, they're like, well, you're not as big anymore. I'm like, it still sticks.
Just leave it.
And then
Yeah.
like my oldest son goes by the Little Rabowski, like all of his handles and
Oh, that's
everything.
cute.
So it's gonna stick. And it's one of those cool. There's worse things to be associated with for sure. But when you have a last
Like
name
the Clinton
like,
Army.
that's awesome.
No.
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 You embrace that one.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Stand
But
by.
when you have a last name like Rabowski,
Mhm.
people are going to screw it up. And so it's always messed up.
Mhm.
And so you either tell people Robo Sky,
Mhm.
and then they see it and they go, that makes a lot more sense. Or you just make the reference to the Big Lebowski and
That's the
they
easiest
see
one.
it.
Mhm.
So I totally just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, you're.
He
we're
hit
gonna-
me in the headphones. I was like, oh crap.
we're gonna talk about names all day.
Well, we were,
Yeah.
so we're talking about development, right? So you were Clint your whole life. So at no point was William a thing.
Nope.
And
Only
so-
to girlfriends. You know.
Ooh, there's like a Big Willie joke in here somewhere.
Yeah,
Were you
that's
big
not where I
Will-
was going with
were you a
it.
big Will Smith
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah,
You said you lived in Miami.
I did.
So like I feel like there's some parallels there. It's a whole genre of music, unfortunately. So then when you went through high school and then you went into college, you became was being a lawyer what you were planning on doing? And
No.
then so I'm segueing between the name and so I know a lot of law firms end up naming it after themselves. So you chose Clint. This is like predestined, this Clint Army thing. Like you willed it into existence, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, it's bigger than me. You know. Yeah.
Is it?
Bigger
Is
than
it?
myself.
But so let's talk about that for a second. So then you started Clinton Company. What year did you start Clinton Company?
That was in 2020. Yeah,
Okay, so
right
just a
during the
couple years ago.
pandemic. Yeah. So basically, what had happened is I was living in Miami. I'd been there for over 10 years at that point. The pandemic hit, and just as a part of life, it was just kind of like time to get back to the hometown and be near friends, family, that kind of stuff. So I decided to go solo and moved me and my now ex-wife back up there and got things started.
Perfect. Well, we'll talk about that when we get back. We'll dive into that some more. This is Boots to Business. I'm Daniel Rabowski. Talk to you guys in a few minutes.
We now return to Boots to Business. with Daniel Rabowski.
And welcome back, everybody, to Boots to Business. My name is Daniel Rabowski. This portion of today's show is brought to you by Coastal Claims Services, your trusted partner in public insurance adjusting and where Clint works. Headquartered here in sunny Florida, serving clients nationwide, they specialize in first-party insurance claims. And when it comes to protecting your home or business and ensuring that you receive fair insurance compensation, count on their experienced team of public adjusters. Explore their comprehensive services today at coastalclaims.net or... See, I always mess this up, so I apologize again. But let them be your advocate for hassle-free property insurance claims. I need to add their phone number on there, so I'll get that done. So Clint works for them. In studio with me is Melissa Jacob.
Hello, hello.
And Clint.
What up? What up?
Leader of the Clint Army.
Mm-hmm.
As we were breaking away before the last segment ended, we were talking about how you started the Clinton Company right during the pandemic, moved back up here local to Orlando.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So just kind of walk us through the time frame of what that looked like, because I know a lot of businesses started during COVID, and our industry actually does really well when people have an opportunity to sit at home and stare at all their stuff. So did you see that to be the case? And if so, let's talk about that for a second and then just kind of go down your timeline.
Yeah. I mean, it just felt like, let me do this now while everyone else is kind of, just in this, limbo stage. So that way, when things do get back to somewhat normal, I'm already hitting the ground running. So that was the plan, and that's how it pretty much worked out. When I got back up to Orlando, I just started doing as much stuff as I could within reason to start growing it. People were still, weird about meeting up in person. Sometimes I had to meet people outside or wear masks in their own home, that kind of thing. We're talking about development. I was looking for creative ways that I could try to, grow the business, obviously. So I got into volunteering for some organizations that lobby up in Tallahassee. So I've actually testified in front of the Senate Banking and Insurance Committee a couple of times. Please don't go look that up. It's an example of what not to do when you speak in public. But just being in the room with some of those guys like Jeff Porter, Paul Jess over at the FJA, I mean, it was incredible to see. And, you just got to jump in and persevere and, to stick with the Big Lebowski theme, get out of your element, Donnie.
That's right.
Yeah. You just got to get uncomfortable. And that's what I did. I'd go up there on my own dime and sit in these rooms that I felt like I had no business being in. But people were receptive to that and, helped prepare you for that. And it helped a lot.
Well, I think networking in general, right, is the key to maneuvering yourself into success in any space, right? So, I mean, if you're just trying to run on your own and not willing to take advice and good or bad, I used to tell guys that worked for me all the time, you're going to learn just as much from a bad leader or manager that you do a good one, because their bad traits are going to be right out there for everybody to see. But I think you have to network, and you have to put yourself in positions that may be uncomfortable for you. If you're willing, if your overall goal and your desire is to grow, right? So I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing was I didn't really have any formal training in first party property claims. I started learning this stuff from the ground up. I remember I read Bill Wilson's book, When Words Collide. And I was like, thank God someone told me about this. It was on Chip Merlin's blog. And
great blog. If you get an opportunity, you want to check that out.
100%.
Yeah.
And after that is when I, found a little thing called National Claims Institute.
What's the before we get too far away? What was the book about?
It's about how it was actually written for adjusters. First party attorneys have glommed onto it a lot, but it's about how to try to resolve insurance disputes. It's but it explains a lot of legal concepts too, to help get you there before it gives his process on how to do that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like $25. Everybody should read it in this industry.
Or it's probably on a Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, probably.
Too. Yeah. But anyway, so then you ended up at NCI, and actually I think that's where you and I met.
Yeah.
You took one of the classes that I taught in there.
Yep.
And I remember somebody coming and telling me Clint comes to all of these classes.
Yeah. I like I said, I was looking for training. I remember I took, I think it was just like the public adjusting master class, and it was, me and a bunch of adjusters and a couple of contractors too.
Right.
It was just, I was the only attorney there. I remember Frank Dalton came in and spoke, and I just remember listening to him talk and being like, that is the type of person, that is the type of command that I want to have over this subject matter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And especially here, I don't know that especially in the state of Florida, I don't know that you could find anybody who probably knows more about insurance in general than Frank.
Yeah.
Great person to learn from by all means. And he's gotten away from the teaching side of it a little bit, obviously, over the last year. With all the things going on at Coastal, it's not exactly high on the priority list, I'm sure.
Understandable, yeah.
So, but there's a ton of good information that comes out. He's one of those guys that if you have the opportunity to sponge off of, you do, for sure.
Yeah. And I kept going to those classes. I mean, they kept offering more, and we developed, some sort of a friendship relationship. And I remember it was Sarah Parker had encouraged me to ask to do some ride-alongs with public adjusters. So I called up Frank, and I was like, hey, I want to do a ride-along. And he's like, you know what? Why don't you just take a claim and learn how to do this?
Right.
And so I was like, okay. And it was like maybe 2 months after that Hurricane Ian hit.
And you're like, here, Clint, here's all the claims that you could ever want. Yeah.
At that point, I called him. I was like, you know what? I have to relocate. My house caught on fire. It flooded in every room. Trees fell on it. I mean,
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I had to evacuate in the middle of the hurricane. Like, grab the dog, get out of there. I watched the fire department.
That's intense.
It was intense.
Where'd you go? I'm assuming you were in Florida.
Yeah.
And then where did
in
you?
downtown? Yeah.
And then where did you go?
So he was in the track where Ian came across the south side of Orlando, right?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. It went right through downtown, essentially.
It went, yeah. And I just lived in the street where I was at is just not great. It was just kind of, that's where the water was pooling. It's near 3 lakes. There was a bunch of drainage buildup and that kind of stuff. And the fire was a freak thing from the tree. We don't really know, but
it probably is.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot when hurricanes hit. And we talk about, again, circle all the way back to the beginning of the show. I say all the way back like it's so long ago. In the hurricane preparedness things, nobody pays attention to the possibility of fire, of collapse, and then the looting and burglary stuff that comes immediately after. Like, those are things that people don't take into account. They worry about floods and wind. And then if they get through flood and wind, the fire department's constantly inundated with stuff because their trees fall on power lines fall on houses, stuff catches on fire,
Yeah,
so.
where my boyfriend lives, there's somebody that had a house fire because of the flooding. So then they just ended up turning the power off like preemptively sometimes because of that.
You'll see that every once in a while if people have enough forethought, but then you also have to take into account when you do that, how many like elderly and their life support systems and things like that are in hospice. And there's a lot of accountability in that, and you're opening yourself up for a big, big liability.
But what you're asking, like, where'd I go after that? That's when I told Coastal, I was like, look, I want to jump in and like do this for real, So I moved to Sarasota, and that had a friend who had a house that was like about to go on the market, and he was like, yeah, you can use it for a couple months before we do that. And I just started using that as like my deploy base, and just started working the claims down in Southwest Florida for 6 months until the house was ready to move back in again.
Nice.
I'll tell you, not being a native Floridian, hearing you say Southwest Florida is the craziest thing to me, because in my brain it's just west of here, right?
Yeah,
it technically is, but coming out of Texas, it becomes this whole like the directional stuff, and you try to pay attention to a lot of it.
Sarasota was just a jump off point. I was doing a lot of commuting down, to the Fort Myers area, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, Clint, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will revisit the Clint Army next time you come on the show. Melissa, as always, thank you very much. This has been Boots to Business. My name is Daniel Rabowski. You can hear us on WFLA Orlando from 5 to 6 every Sunday, which is on FM 93.1, 94.1, 107.7, online at any of the socials, boots-to-business.com. You can find us on our YouTube channel. And I want to do a special shout out to a couple of our other sponsors. We have Apex Performance Chiropractic. Go down there and see Joey, phenomenal chiropractor and sports medicine guy. Claim Wizard, CRM, which Clint uses regularly, and the Z Goalkeeper Academy. If you have kids that are playing soccer and want to learn how to be goalies, go to Z Goalkeeper Academy on Google. Thanks for listening. Again, Boots to Business. My name's Daniel Rabowski.